Hello and welcome people back to the channel. We've got more action to talk about, and of course we've got Pro League starting in, at the time of recording, like 2-3 days. So we want to get just a little bit ahead of the action for your Sunday entertainment here on this beautiful sunny weekend. I don't know where you guys are in the world, but in England we've been all right. We've been blessed with some decent weather. It's like t-shirt and like a little jumper kind of weather, which is very good for England. You take it. You wear like a light jacket type vibe. So it's been good. We got Pro League. We're gonna talk through just today groups A and B. We'll do C and D closer to the time because they don't start for about 10-ish days, something like that. So do that a little bit closer to time. We've also got the Sunday off in the break between A and B. So that's probably when you'll see next week's episode. And then, of course, we'll do another one after that when we get towards the playoffs. Of course, we can't even talk about the playoffs because we don't know who's going to be there. But we'll make our predictions coming towards this. Before we get into it, Scriff, brother, how you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Like you say, lovely day at the moment, so pretty happy. Well, I say at the moment, it's like 11 o'clock when we're recording, so, it's been a lovely day.
Exactly.
It's actually my mum's birthday today, so shout out
Happy
mum one
birthday.
time
Shout
on
out
the day
Mumsy.
on the day of recording. Yeah, and so, we had a little run out. I've only just started driving this year, so that was kind of cool,
Let's
just
go.
like taking my mum out for a little bit of brunch or whatever, and yeah, like
Yeah.
nice day, man. Nice day. Bought some records, that I'm
There
probably
we
not going to
go.
listen to for like 6 months or whatever. But yeah, doing well. Working on the fits. I mean, what else? What else is going on? Yeah, it was good. Bit of walking around,
Can't complain.
the nearby city, I suppose. Yeah, it was good. It was really good, mate. So
Yeah.
thank you for asking. I appreciate
You
it.
can't complain. Let's get into the action. Let's talk about what we've got to do with a Pro League. Now, let me bring this one up for you. This is where we're going to start things over on Group A. Then we'll move on towards Group B. There is a last chance stage in these. There normally basically always as there has been for the last few years. The only difference basically with this year's Pro League, the main difference basically with this year's Pro League compared to previous seasons and years is that rather than this being a 5-week tournament, it's a 3-week tournament. And rather than it being one group per week, it's 2 groups per week. So A and B in week 1, and then C and D in week 2. Which, first of all, I've got to say, I think it's a much better system. I've always been a fan of Pro League, especially the recent Pro Leagues. It's very much got that kind of beyond the summit vibe to it, where it's very chilled out. I'm very envious of the guys who are in person. Of course, at this point, if you don't know already, myself and Shriv, we will be working Pro League. We're going to be on the B stream, but we are at home. But I'm quite envious of the guys in person. Just that kind of like it. There's always something going on in the studio. It seems kind of vibes. And also, I know for a fact that absolutely massacre everybody at table tennis. So I just want to
Oh,
kind
man.
of just want to for the bragging rights, really. Just want. But
Yeah, I'd be awful. I would be. I've not
it's like
played
there's
table
other
tennis in
things.
about 15 years. You know.
There's other games though. You might be
Oh,
able to sneak a chance. I mean, like the 1v1, I'm getting absolutely slapped up at like 100%.
yeah, probably
Like
same.
by
I reckon it might be a battle for like me and Stunner if we ever get in there at the same sort of time. To be honest, for the bottom
yeah.
spot, I don't know. I'm not super
Was he bottom
confident.
last time?
I don't know actually. I don't know in the end. I'm gonna be honest, but
I
I
think
think
Machine might have
yeah,
been close, but he
potentially.
he had a rough run. I think he had like Dinko, who's actually pretty decent.
Yeah,
It was
Dinko
like his
won it,
first game.
eh? Last
I
time.
think so. It was him versus I want to say
Oh
Sponge.
God, Sponge or Harry maybe. I
Oh
think
no, it was Harry. It was Harry.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, this other stuff. We're not there for that though. We're from home, so
True
we'll
Counter
make our own
Strike
games.
history is the 1v1 results. That's
Yeah,
really stretching your
exactly.
knowledge.
Exactly. But we'll be from home, so we'll make our own fun. But yeah, let's talk through the groups. We'll start over on Group A. And this one pretty spicy off the rip, getting the best team in the world currently right now with FaZe, exactly what we want. Astralis, especially with the recent Astralis, this has made things really interesting for me. Virtus Pro with the big new change of Electronic, another interesting storyline. And then some of these tier 2 guys coming through that have actually been in really decent form. I think 3D Max looking really okay. Saw, of course, that major run was very good from them. Fnatic even making it here was a bit of a surprise, but they seem to be slowly finding their form. Eternal Fire, of course, who have been now, I think, very close to being called a tier 1 team quite comfortably. And then Imperial, who I didn't really care that much about prior to the RMRs, but the new boys in this team are really solid. So yeah, how are you feeling overall coming towards this group?
Yeah, so Group A, I feel is you've highlighted, given a good overview there, but I think it is relatively top heavy at the moment. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, I feel like FaZe should maybe not the smoothest run, but they should be able to take top spot here.
Mhm.
Bit more of a battle between the rest of them, though. You know, we have this question mark around Astralis that is like, are they going to be able to have that same sort of form? One would assume that FaZe will be able to beat them again, right? It was
Mhm.
obviously a small rivalry there at Chengdu with Astralis winning the first matchup and then FaZe winning it when it was a bit more important.
Yeah,
So
pressure on kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly. So, and again, Astralis, they do look good, and we're liking the device moves, but a lot of young players in here for sure. So that's something that certainly affects them. Maybe the environment of a pro league
True.
where you've got a lot of chances, you've got a lower bracket, you've got a last chance qualifier even going in. So potentially they can perform a bit better there. So Astralis are kind of the other team to watch for me. Maybe VP a little bit, right? You've obviously got Electronic coming in with this team. That's exciting, but this is the first
So
outing for them, and usually it does take a lot of time for James to get things going. Yeah, I don't know. Eternal Fire always do well in this environment as well. Is
it's
maybe
true.
like they're a bit of an obvious dark horse, but all the same, I think that they could sneak through here if they beat Astralis in that opening game. Then all of a sudden, anything is possible, right? Eternal Fire always
Yeah.
sort of feel that way in I don't know how you want to word it, what you'd want to say, but it's certainly Pro League to begin with because there's so many games going on. I think pressure, yeah, is ultimately the best word for it. I don't want to like
Yeah.
offend the legitimacy of Pro League by sort of saying anything else, but I think people can understand what I'm sort of getting at, that there's just a
Mhm.
lot of chances here, and some teams perform quite well when it feels
Yeah.
like, this is not last chance for them straight out of the gate.
Yeah, because there's lower bracket and then last chance. So in that sense, you kind of, if you're at least picking up a couple of wins, you're gonna guarantee yourself basically 3 chances of survival, which I think at the very least, you question at times teams like FaZe, for example, just because of FaZe for me are always, we always say it. We even saw it at Chengdu, right? They're a side who they only really ramp it up when the pressure is on. Sometimes in groups they can look a little lackadaisical. Is probably the way I go about it. One thing I do love as well, no best of ones. Beautiful to see. Best of
True.
threes off the rip. Is exactly what we want, right? Best of ones. I don't know. I think in MR12 now, we're not a fan of best of threes. We love to see it. Let's go through one by one and go game by game predictions here.
Okay.
FaZe Imperial. I think it's pretty simple to say FaZe here. However, Imperial, I've been really liking what this team have been producing. I think this team
Yeah.
are actually low-key quite scary. I think Vinny's calling really well, and making this team look super competent. But for me, the kid who's just unbelievable. No way. No way in DC, actually, both of them, but no way in particular, mechanically is just so scary. I know Maui was on stream the other day watching a bunch of his demos. He dropped like 27 and a half and then lost the second half and the
Yeah.
map.
Yeah.
Um,
Everyone was
but like
posting
obviously it
about that.
wasn't really kind of like his fault. He was doing all of his job. But yeah, that kid is so talented. So I hope Imperial can make a competition out of this. My assumption though is that FaZe should make it relatively comfortable though.
Yeah, I mean, you'd assume so, right? This is obviously a team that's looking really good at the moment. Major is a little bit of a hiccup for them, but
Mhm.
ultimately very, very, very close to 3 wins in a row, which is,
True.
and again, it continues, what is it, like 8 finals in CS2 now, 7 in a row, something like that. And obviously winning 2 events in there. So, yeah, really impressive. You'd expect them to look like the best team in this
Yeah.
matchup, in this group. You never really know with FaZe. This might be the first game that they drop, right? And Imperial are a team that can sneak under a little bit. Maybe you've not done as much direct prep. The one thing
True.
for FaZe at the moment is they have not really missed a tournament. They're getting in all these grand finals. They're getting the win at Chengdu and whatnot.
Mhm.
But they've not had a lot of time to reset. That's maybe one of the things maybe that I could
Yeah.
speak to here. But yeah, I know you say that you like Imperial, the way that they look and whatnot. I think they could take a game a little bit later on, but I think
Yeah.
that
I
FaZe
don't
should
think
be
it's
able to get
FaZe.
them like easily, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I also think the veto is pretty favorable to FaZe as well, which is going to be one of the big things. Imperial, they have these moments where parts of their pool are a little bit lackluster for me, and I think it can be a little costly, and I think that's one of the things I'm going to look towards. Generally speaking, then we've got the second best three. This one I feel like is actually a little bit more of a
Yeah,
debate
sure,
of
sure.
that Astralis and Ten on Fire. I'm actually going to lean current form here rather than maybe favorites. I mean, Ten on Fire is 7th in the world, so you kind of Giving them their credit, in all fairness, they actually looked pretty hot at the major. The only thing is they just lost the ESWC, the Esports World Cup qualifiers, to Sashi in the finals. So Sashi have got the spot, which is kind of a bit wild. Probably not the series that Eternal Fire would have wanted. I
Yeah.
didn't end up catching it bar the start of the first map, but I don't know whether confidence gets knocked at all. Not
I'm not sure.
qualifying. It's probably just
We
quite
could do a
tilting.
whole video on the Sashi
Yeah.
run, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's
To
wild.
be
Yeah.
honest.
I mean, we'll probably end up getting back to this closer to when the Esports World Cup happens. Like, so we'll do one of these, right? And we'll just talk about like, how the fuck did Sashi get here? Like, it's like, how was Sashi the qualifying team
Oh, man.
in a qualifier with C9, Eternal Fire,
Danish Counter-Strike.
Amcal?
It's back.
Yeah,
It's so back.
exactly.
You know,
It's
you
so
got
back.
gaming gladiators looking decent,
It's true.
representing at the
It's true.
major. Astralis looking good at Chengdu. Now we got Sashi bringing up the rear. It's crazy out here. It's just like 2018 all over again.
Exactly. What's the thoughts of Astralis Eternal Fire? Who do you think takes it? I'm actually quite heavily leaning Astralis here, just off the back of Chengdu. I loved what I saw at Chengdu. Even the game we casted as well, they looked like seriously good. I think in particular, Stown and Yabi looked way more on form than they had prior. They looked so uncomfortable on the Blame F, but they looked anything but on the Device. They've obviously got all their roles back. Device mentioned this. They got all their positions back, and it's showing. They just look a little bit more alive. And Device as well, actually, bar that last series. Individual form didn't really take a hit. He was fine and hitting his shots.
Yeah, I think so too. On the side of Astralis, I believe that the Chengdu tape and everything is going to come really, really in now in Pro League. And again, it is one of these tournaments where you've got all the games going on. Get that motivation, get that discipline, that work that you've done in between. There is the sort of same argument as FaZe, where they've maybe not had an awful lot of time to reset. But again, it just comes down to, okay, Device coming in as IGL. We weren't really sure what to expect. The team look really good, completely revitalized, and now moving into something like Pro League, they should be able to take that same energy and carry it over. So yeah, for an opening game, you definitely expect them to do well here. I think Astralis are hopefully a team that we revisit with into playoffs, and we go, okay, what did we see? Did they drop down into lowers? Were there some close games in there that shouldn't have been close, etc., etc.? But the Eternal Fire game here, I don't think it will be easy, right? And Eternal Fire are a very different style of team to deal with. And then you do have to be careful of this honeymoon period with Astralis, because again, you have to bear in mind the FaZe win was pretty legit. Beyond that, a lot of their opponents weren't amazing, So I do feel that they just have to be a bit careful with that. But yeah, they should be able to take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Then moving on to Virtus Pro versus Fnatic. Now, for me, this one's not really a competition. I've caught a bit of this Fnatic side. I'm still not sold on them. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think they're a little bit, a little bit dicey. Not fully sold on Afro in this team. He just looks a little bit uncomfortable individually. Even though his rating doesn't look that good, I think body is so important to this team. He is really, really impressive when he gets going. And actually, another guy who doesn't play the greatest of roles is QB, and I really actually rate him as a rifler. I think one of the young kind of German riflers coming through. Also, one of those guys who definitely is probably someone to keep an eye on for the future. Big are always looking at making changes, especially when this team look a little dicey. This is a German-speaking guy, but also if Eternal Fire have made changes, and I'm right in saying he speaks Turkish as well. So there is that world there. Some of those guys are getting on a bit, in all fairness. No two ways about it, but also they're doing pretty well at the moment. So I think they don't need to make any changes. But I think, yeah, he's pretty talented. I think obviously Matties has been one of the real kind of hot prospects of this team, but there's no comparison for me. I think just individually, Flit and Fame. This will be like what we saw. Was it at Chengdu? Yeah, it was at Chengdu. It was them against what they called a wild card. So that was the game before we got on, but we were watching it. It was like a little bit delayed or whatever, day one. And Flit and Fame just held W up Inferno on Banana, just running over Wildcard because they're not gonna show them any respect. And I don't think VP will show these guys any respect here. They don't need to. There's literally no need. You got Flit and Fame, who are two of the best riflers in that region, unbelievably talented. Then you've got one of the most successful riflers from that region and one of the all-time greats from that region. Now joining as the new player. We talk about honeymoon phases. I feel like this is probably a good time for it. And then one of the best AWPs, IGLs, whatever you want to call it. And Norbert's a fucking stud, man. This guy is like back. I don't want to hear any slander. This guy is back and he's rocking and rolling. So yeah, I'm actually I'm very on the VP hype train with this electronic signing. He role wise as well, like, you know, not to be on the bush, Mir was just shit from the get go. Like, he was not good in my opinion. I didn't like the pickup from like the, immediately. But I think this is a really solid team. Now, I don't actually see any weaknesses in VP at the moment. Like, this team seems to look pretty good to me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely there to agree. I think Electronic, stat wise, is just an immediate upgrade. You know, you really can't go wrong, even if he's going to play some of the more difficult roles. One would assume they'd give them to Norbert. Maybe not for this event, though, right? Like, let's just kind of bet everyone in, see how it fits, and see what we like. They might just 1-for-1 Electronic with all the Mir's positions, especially with an IGL like James. It's obviously very structured and thought out and whatnot. But it is kind of interesting. I think, the Mirror Edition was definitely a move that felt like VP of old, where it was all around sort of play around James. He needs a bit of support, try and get some numbers in there, but, all about the AWP, all about James, and all about the percentages. Whereas they've kind of moved away from that, really. And they are looking for better stats, better fighters, and taking some pressure off James, actually, especially into CS2 and after the major that they won in Rio. Everyone's sort of figured it out a little bit. And yeah, VP becomes a very interesting game, although they are difficult to play against, and it feels like they'll always be difficult to play against, just the way that they really try and, squeeze the blood out of the stone. I think a lot of teams, especially at that higher level, that playoff kind of level, figured out that it's like, okay, we just need a clean break into a bomb site, and then there's not going to be anyone around to try and contest us. No one's going to get aggressive. No one's going to get crazy in a 1v4 situation to try and save the round from nowhere.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that the Mir pickup was maybe a bit quick as well. If I'm remembering correctly, it's just sort of after the whole sort of Chiron situation, right? They've moved him out. They've got Norbert back in. Don't really know what to do. There were gaps. There were gaps that needed sort of filling, and Mir felt like a good role player to pick up, but just unfortunately not able to match up. So I'm also with VP. I'll not give too much chat to Fnatic. There's really just not a lot of spark behind this team. Not a lot of excitement.
They don't have an identity, do they?
Yeah, exactly. You've got Crims, who always looks good. Body's actually a pretty decent IGL within the tier 2 space. He was doing well, but I think a large part of Body, Afro, obviously Jocko for a little bit as well, was all about like being French. They played a very, very French style. It was so aggressive, always forcing, relying on individuals, and I think that they have just lost a little bit of that. And there's some decent bits here, but there's nothing super exciting. So in terms of an opening game, it's definitely VP.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then moving on to the final game of this one, 3D Max taking on Saw. Now, I think this game's actually quite close just because I caught 3D Max the other day and they actually looked really solid. They played, like you said, kind of French Counter-Strike. It's so aggressive, so in your face, just so fun as well to watch. But I'm pretty sure they lost the series. So it didn't really make a big difference at the end of the day. I think for me, I'm leaning pretty heavily. Not pretty heavily. I'm leaning. It's relatively evenly, but I'm leaning Saw. Recent LAN experience. Everything there looks okay. The only hiccup I have for Saw is recently they lost to Sampi in the Thunderpick qualifiers. That was a bit of a. It wasn't, a bit of a faux pas from them in a way. They should be making it past Sampi, no bother. I mean, in a tournament like Thunderpick with them being, I think if I'm right in saying, the number 1 team on their side of the bracket, they should have got all the way to the final, but they lost on their second best threes. They won their first and lost their second in an 8-stage process or whatever to the final. So that's the only thing. I'm going to play devil's advocate and just say it was, strat saving for Pro League type vibe. This is a side who just made it to the major. They've also qualified to Blast London as well. I don't think there's too much to be worried about with that one loss. I do think also Saw a different beast online as they are on LAN. On LAN, they just seem much more clean. Online, they're very flaky at times. So I'm going Saw here. But I think it actually could be a close game. I as much as it sounds very flip-floppy, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a 3D Max win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I think, to be honest, I feel like I'm pretty heavily sore.
Mm,
Again, the 3D Max team doesn't really excite me. At one time, some of these players might have done. An
sure.
Exorcise, a Maka. These were guys 2 or 3 years ago, probably even more for Maka,
Yeah.
that people were looking at and being like, oh, yeah, this is kind of exciting. Maybe French Counter-Strike back a little bit, and,
Yeah.
and building up behind Zywoo and stuff like this. But they just seem to have a very clear ceiling, and they've never been
Yes.
able to move beyond that. Um,
Yeah.
to be honest. Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Gravity, I'm kind of interested to see. I've not actually seen him play very
He's
much, so that
he's
could be
pretty
kind of
good.
interesting.
He's pretty
Um,
good. He's getting a lot of space, more than I thought he would. As someone who, this is a big step up for him. I did an interview with him post game when they. Oh no, they won. Yeah, because I spoke to him. Yeah, and he said, basically for him, this is his first time playing with like legends kind of thing. So like it is a big step for him, but they're actually giving him quite a bit of space.
okay, fair enough. I mean, yeah, they could be cool. They could take a map, but I think that Saw will be the better team in this one for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, it's sort of without a shadow of a doubt. I think that this is an event where they'll be, again, very much looking to prove themselves. It's a perfect
Yeah.
time for it. You have a few of these top teams that we're talking about in Group A that are a little bit tired. All
Mhm.
three that we've really touched on as being, very, very exciting. FaZe, Astralis, Virtus Pro. There is that little bit in there. You never know. There might have been a delayed flight somewhere
Yeah.
or something that they've come back to at home that they had to
Uh
deal
huh.
with and they've not had chance to reset and get into, and it's you're in that flow of like, okay, what's next? Oh, I've got 2 days. One where I need to reset from
Sleep.
all the jet lag,
Yeah.
one where I need to, yeah, maybe just actually catch up on some proper sleep because, as I'm sure lots of people know out there, like the jet lag sleep is really not the greatest. Your circadian rhythm is off from your body and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've got protocols in place to reset all that for these guys by now, but all the same, there is a little bit of room in there for a couple of these teams that saw Eternal Fire are the two that stand out to me to
Yeah.
maybe just sneak in and snatch some games away.
Let's finish off the group by then just running through in order the top four. So it's first place goes directly to the quarterfinals, second goes to the playoff round two, third goes to the playoff round three with the last chance qualifier winner. So for me, I'm going phase one, I'm going Astralis 2, I'm going VP3, and then the last chance team. I'm actually probably gonna go Eternal Fire. So yeah, Phase, Astralis, VP, Eternal Fire in
Yeah.
order is what I'm gonna go with for mine. The only one that I would throw out there as a potential, as a maybe, is Imperial on that last chance qualifier.
Okay. Okay.
That's my dark horse is coming through this group A is Imperial. But that's what I'm gonna go Phase, Astralis, VP, Eternal Fire in order.
So I'm kind of the same. I would flip VP and Astralis personally. I think
Okay.
VP will do a little bit better than Astralis. Again, especially with Electronic coming in, I think he's just going to be such a one for
Mhm.
one. And I think he might be a bit more comfortable in this. Obviously, there's going to be the Jame style, the Jame buy-in and everything, but he'll be ready for that.
Mm.
That will have been in the
Yeah.
contract somewhere, I'm sure. Um,
True.
and I just think that the environment, we've talked about this already, the environment at Cloud9 is really not great. Again, seen
Yeah.
recently with the Sashi game, I suppose.
Do
But
you know
they just
what?
don't look good.
You've actually brought a pretty good talking point about Cloud9 because obviously they were meant to be here and they pulled out.
It's
I
true.
think there's I don't think there's confirmation, and this is not me knowing stuff behind the scenes and then just leaking it. But my speculation is that Electro might have dropped them in it a little bit. You
Yeah,
know
I
what I
think so.
mean?
I think so.
Because them dropping out, not finding time for a replacement, makes me think that he just didn't give them a lot of time at all prior to Pro League before he's like, yeah, by the way, boys, I'm going to
Yeah.
VP. The rumor that I think was from Overdrive, I think off the top of my head, was 1.5 mil is how much VP paid for Electronic, which is insane, insane cash. 1.5 mil
Brev, there's
dollars.
no way.
That's what Overdrive said. I'm not that what he says goes, but I
There's
don't know any
what
other.
an NA org? There's no way.
Apparently,
There's no way
is well,
because
is buyout.
yeah,
Yeah, so he
surely
said
not.
electronics transfer cost electronics transfer cost more than 1.5 mil dollars. But then The only thing that makes me think that doesn't make sense is that C9 paid 2 mil for the roster. So
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
yeah, 1.5 mil.
I mean,
It sounds
sure, it might be a fair chunk, but you've got like all this kind of people would say maybe the Munacy number is a bit higher, but we have
yeah. It
like
makes you wonder what
600k
Monaco
is conjecture for Munacy. But let's go with that. What's going to be more than that? 800 to a mil. It's like, you know, in the CIS region, there's no way VP. I don't want to go into this super deep or whatever, but there's no way VP as an org are paying that much
However,
for Electronic. No offense
Furia
to
paid
Electronic.
700k to Fallen.
Yeah, but he's got way more, mate. He's not just a player. He's a brand.
Again, yeah, that's
You know
true.
what I
That's
mean?
true.
And
Realistically, he
within
probably
Brazil to
sold
bring the
the
Godfather home.
yeah,
You
he
know?
probably made that money back in jersey sales. Realistically,
For
it's
sure.
like
For
Ronaldo
sure.
going back to Man United to just stink up the
Yeah,
gaff,
he's in
right?
like
He made it back in a day, you know, with the shirt sales. So
he's in adverts and everything. Fallen. I'm
yeah,
sure
he is a mega celebrity.
that was
Like
in
a
the
mega.
in the like the Red Bull moments of CS:GO. He
Yes,
spoke
yes,
about replacing, funnily enough, Ronaldo on like a
yeah,
shampoo advert or whatever. So I'm
yeah.
pretty sure there's a bit more
He
to
is.
that.
Yeah, it's a
700k
business
as
deal.
a brand deal. 700k is actually not that bad, to be honest. But yeah,
Yeah,
so what were we even talking about? I don't remember. We're
you're
just going
doing your
about
top
money.
four, and
Ah,
then
yeah,
we
top four. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
went VP two.
yeah. Because Electronic is like a full on, you know, stats swap, and I think he will
Yeah,
just boost the team pretty quickly. And I don't know, they might have a bit of fun with it. But yeah, I think I remember what we sort of got onto. You said that Cloud9 sort of dropped in it and whatnot.
mm,
That definitely feels like the case to me. I think the thing is as well with an event like Pro League, because there's so many teams going on, you got all these groups, you know, you got teams coming in and out, and it's all logistically a little bit of a challenge. You got to get them all into Malta, you know, stuff like this. I'm pretty sure there's like a hard roster lock for something
yes,
like Pro
there's
League. Whereas, you know, maybe a blast groups or something, they might be a bit more lenient. But with something like Pro League, it is logistically a big challenge. So I think they need to know who's coming and going and who's got, you know, visas sorted and stuff like this.
yeah.
So I feel like because of that, there is a pretty big chance that he has just kind of dropped them in it a little bit. You know, VP have reached out to him or he's reached out to them or Jame or whatever, and they've got the cogs in motion, and it's just dotted line is the last thing.
Yeah.
All he has to do
Then tell
somewhere,
C9.
yeah, somewhere
By
in
the
the
way, I'm
contract, I would
signing
say they need to know if negotiations are going on before you sign anything serious. But you know, that's always done a little bit weird, isn't it? He'll probably have gone to Cloud9 and say, "I'm gonna leave if an offer comes in," and then like 2 days later, VP send an offer. You know, yeah, exactly. So
okay, all right, buddy.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Group B, and I think this one, honestly, for me, feels considerably easier to talk about. Another quite top heavy in a few of these matchups. We'll start at the top. Vitality taking on Sharks.
Don't laugh.
I think I'm allowed to laugh. I think I'm allowed to laugh. The second seed overall, I think the second seed. I'm right in saying? Oh, actually, I might be wrong. No, they're actually not. They're actually. Oh my god, they're technically fifth seed or fifth highest rated team coming in. But I forgot they've dropped to sixth now. It's actually quite a big dip.
The Kato result really.
Yeah, really fucked
wrecked
them. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
But they are versus the bottom seed. And I've caught a couple of Sharks games a while back. I caught one in I want to say a CCT something or other because Colex and McHenry was casting it.
Okay.
And I just wanted to
Full government.
just wanted to no just wanted to wanted to support the boys. And then another one because it was a best of one somewhere. But yeah, they're pretty ass, man. They're not really good.
Okay. All right. Oh god.
This honestly, like no joke, this could be if Vitality play properly, right, and don't fuck about, this could be the quickest series all tournament. Like no joke. Like that's how That's how one-sided it could be. If Spinks hits his form, if Flames does his role, especially on the CT side well, and if Zywoo does Zywoo thing, actually plays at that kind of 1.35 rating that he's averaging at the moment, this could be a massacre. The thing is, and the only real kind of caveat, I guess, to that is the case of Zywoo has at times looked a little, not iffy, but, we also know playoff Zywoo's not the same as group Zywoo. So we
Sure.
need to see group Zywoo really live up to that kind of, group Zywoo type thing. But yeah, that's where I'm going for this. I think this could be an absolute massacre. Sharks, basically, the demos I've seen of these guys outside of the 2 games I've watched have not been that impressive. Erode Enezawa as well is one of the only players that I actually think has a fairly decent amount of talent on this team. I know he's not the highest rated player, but I think he's probably the most influential in my opinion. But I think they have a lot of weaknesses. They have a lot of weaknesses, and this is a side who fundamentally, when I watched a couple of demos, miss smokes. The timing on trades was pretty woeful. I'm a little concerned. I think Vitality can just come in towards this one and make it a speedy one. So I don't think it's too much of a conversation for me there. I think that this one should be clean.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add. I'm familiar with some of the players, but this, 5-man lineup, not really seen as much personally. So I think it's fair enough. It's an opportunity type vibe. It's a
Exactly.
good chance for them to get out and get some real serious experience, but then to turn that into something domestically rather than making a deep run here. Where it does get interesting for this team, I will say, is potentially in the lower side of things. I don't think they win this first game, but not to touch on too much. M80, Mongols, Tyloo. These are teams that are beatable for sure. Tyloo in particular, I think, to be honest, because they've really not looked good recently.
And it's the new lineup now as well. It's the one with Lyrics and ZDR. Well, ZDR's been playing, but no Advent. Thank fuck. So it's the new team. So they could be in flux a little bit or whatever. Yeah. So do you reckon they can make a lower bracket run?
Yeah, maybe lower bracket style. Yeah, I reckon there's a chance. Okay. M80. If I guess we could use this as a segue to move into the next matchup here. M80, of course, a little bit of a weird kind of time for them. So, and these players coming together, still getting a bit comfortable with each other, I think. But they do look quite good domestically. I think they're a pretty exciting team, and with Slacks coming in. They would be the harder ones, but, a Tyloo and a Mongols, you don't necessarily know what to expect out of them. And Sharks might be a team that surprise you a bit. But yeah, I suppose moving forwards the M80 Bet Boom game, I'll open up here. I think Bet Boom, like, there's so much like potential behind this team. These are all names that, apart from Nafany, there's no beef. There's not going to be beef with what I'm about to say. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
He's watching this. He's watching this, and he's like, oh, this guy's gonna, just like everyone else, he's just gonna put down some hate.
Guy.
It's just the fact that these are all names within the past sort of year or two that have turned a few heads within the tier 2 space. Zorte maybe a little bit longer than that for sure, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be working. I think when
they're just not winning, are they?
Yeah, it's like Bet Boom came in and they named a few players. We've had a couple moves since then, but you had sort of Nafany coming behind. Maui did the whole thing where he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Nafany. It seems like I was wrong. You're doing pretty well here." That lasted all of about 6 weeks, and then the results have just not been great. But they do make the qualifiers. They do beat out the other tier 2 teams, I suppose, but once they come off against the bigger opposition, again, there's just nothing all that exciting. So I think M80 could genuinely win this game. I'm not going to lie to you, with like the form that they have and the drive that they will have behind them, of being sort of, you've got other major representatives like, your Cloud9, your Complexity, not Cloud9, Liquid are like a level above in NA, but when it comes to like true NA grinders, M80 is sort of the representative there. So I think M80 could genuinely win this one out for sure.
Unironically, I love this M80 team. I like, especially now, I think the Sin edition is good. I had a bit of a conversation with this. I know originally, I'll be interested to what he says now, but when it first happened, I spoke with Paladin about it. He wasn't hugely happy with it. Just obviously, it's tail end of of Big was pretty rough, right? I mean, it got to the point where he was being taken off the calling role, so it wasn't exactly good signs. But
Yeah.
I like this. I think international guy bringing that over towards NA gives them a bit of a fresh start. And so far, it's worked. They beat Liquid yesterday 2-0 in the Esports World Cup qualifiers to book the spot from NA. So they've got the spot. Obviously, Complexity have been invited, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they weren't in the qualifiers. I'm pretty sure they've been invited. But they beat Liquid and, like, pretty comfortably. But Liquid played badly as well. But Malbs had a ridiculous, like, 1.3 something rating. And he's averaging a 1.3 something rating. This is, Malbs is without a doubt one of the most talented riflers in that region. He has been for a long time. Seriously good. Slacks has a definitive ceiling above him is my issue with this team. I saw it at the RMR. Granted, they were playing with Def, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, I guess, maybe. But I do like this team. I really like Swisher. I think Sin can bring a lot of positives. Obviously, Def's no longer in the server, which I think he probably prefers post RMR. And they've actually, they've got a player now, right? Because obviously Manx took some time away for personal reasons, and I did leave them with a big hole in this team. I think they can beat BetBoom. The only caveat I have to that point is I love Magnagers. I think this kid is unbelievable. He's so talented. I put him as like number 2 in my top 10 bold predictions list for the year. And then like a week later, he got signed by BetBoom, which, makes me happy because that's already like a dub in my book. This is like a, just outside of the top 30 team getting Magnagers. He's so good. Not quite like next donk regen good, but he's a serious talent from the region. I think he'll be fully fledged tier 1 within 2 years, probably. He's way too talented.
How old is he
not
now?
to be.
19?
18. I don't even. I think he's about 18. Let me have a look. You might be right. No, he is 19. No, you are right. Yeah, 19. So yeah, but yeah, he's young, right? That's the thing. Like he's still, in the infancy stages of his career, I guess. I mean, obviously, it's kind of weird in esports because then you have people like Donk, but generally speaking, he's still pretty young. And this is kind of his first big team, obviously, because he's been on Spirit Academy, so he's never had the chance to play regularly against the kind of the big boys. So I'm excited, man. I really want to see what this guy can do on LAN. Zort is obviously very talented. Like you said, this BetBeam team has so much potential in the individuals. All of them should be good. I mean, Chiron as well, even prior to the VP days, was such an animal in the server, but they just don't win. And they don't win against good teams. There's no two ways about it. And yeah, they might pick up a win against M18. We wouldn't be wrong here. But the second they face a Vitality or later on, like a G2, you just don't back them at all, because I think fundamentally, more than just being out-fragged in terms of the individuals, I think they get out-called. Not that I'm like a Nafany hater. I just think the depth of this team, the strat book isn't that deep compared to some of these, some of the big guns.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird thing. I think, BetBoom are probably coming in, fair bit of money. You might have this as like a stopgap team for some of these players, a bit of a for sale sign for some of them. Others, like Zorte, he's been confined to tier 2 for a long time. Not really given big chances. Is there maybe a reason for that? There was a period on Spirit, am I right in thinking? I think for a little bit for Zorte.
I want to say,
Like
I think,
years
I'll say, he had fours as well, and then he had
fours, of course.
Liquid, didn't he? Right, when he went over for a little bit.
Goodness, we gotta check this.
I'm not. I know it's late, but I'm pretty sure I'm not tweaking. No, I am tweaking.
No, we're both wrong, bro.
Oh no, sorry, he was
just
rumored,
fours,
and then he was
fours
rumored, and then they stuck with him. This is when they stuck with OC, and everyone was like, "Why?"
Yeah, because I know. I remember that, and then I think there was like some of the fours players moved over to Spirit, and then they. Because I remember it was years ago. It was like 2021, but still, I thought he was part of that ilk of players. But suppose not. That's fair enough. Fact check yourself live and direct. So that's fair. But he's obviously like someone, I think, unfortunately, that's just not had a full on taste. There is some reason. There is something about his game that people just don't quite like. So yeah, I don't know. I think the energy around this team. You have a few people who are here, happy to be involved. There's probably some decent money behind BetBoom, which is always an angle. You got to get real about it as a pro player. Sometimes it's like, okay, I might not end up being a major winner. This is pretty good. I love the competition, but it might not get much better than this. And then you've got other players like a Magnagers, maybe a Chiron, who are still trying to prove that they have what it takes, you know?
Sure.
So, yeah. That's all I've got to say if you want to move on to the next matchup.
Falcons Mongols. You want to kick start us on this one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because I got some shit to say here, to be honest. One sec. Just clear my throat, ready
You're
to go.
really getting ready for this one. God damn.
Yeah. Listen, man, I don't know what is going on. I just think that, you know, Falcons, like, they're one of the oldest teams going. There's no one in here that is super sharp, you know, a talent that you'd want to see alongside. Boros was maybe tested on that, sure, and there's some issues there beyond the game for Boros, and I think we're relatively aware of that. Even prior to him joining Falcons, you know, surprised it went so well in Monty, but I think Monty, like, the energy there was like he was allowed to do whatever. He's a bit of, you know, it's kind of like when, this is a wild analogy, but it's kind of like when, you know, you're in year 6 and you're like a little bit of the top dog, but there's not that many people going on. There's not that many people in school, you know, when you're 11. And then you move to big school and it's like
secondary school.
Yeah.
You get volleyed across the
exactly. And it's like,
shut up.
There's so many people, and then everyone's like double the size of you, you know, because you're not started growing yet. So I think there's a I don't know what that is, but it does make sense.
I feel it.
Because Boros, it's like, I think he had a bit of that on Monty, where it was like, you know, people are the same sort of ilk. He's better than them just based on talent, to be honest, right? It was easy times, but you weren't necessarily expecting him in the big games, in the difficult opponents games and whatnot. You weren't expecting him to take over there. Maybe he looks good, but they're going to eventually lose that out, right? Because it's Vitality, for goodness sake, or it's FaZe or whatever, right? Into Falcons, I think the energy was a lot harder for him. The environment was a lot harder for him. They ask a lot more of you. They expect a lot more of you because you've shown it, and he just couldn't quite get there. But I don't know. I think they do pre-pick up. There's just nothing exciting about this team again. You know, they're another one of those, really. Yeah. I think Magisk, for me, stands out as a great player. So consistent, super solid. Dupree, though, I feel like on Preezy, he's a little bit semi-retired almost. You know what I mean?
It felt like it, yeah.
He was just chilling, you know, playing with the young guns, trying to help them out, become a mentor, maybe explore like the idea of coaching or whatever. But obviously the bags come calling with Falcons. And you know, it's the homies as well. They also need a bit of help. But yeah, I don't know. And Snappy, for me, numbers wise, is not really going to look good. I love the guy, you know, brilliant to have on for interviews and all that sort of stuff, right? But there's just not enough here for him to work with, I don't think. And there's also 2 or 3 players some Pius now might expect to have his own sort of resource and whatnot. I don't know that Dupree and particularly Magisk are going to have the ability and the full-on respect to just let Snappy use them how he wants. You know what I mean? I think there's going to be a little bit more individuality there. So the hot take with the Falcons-Mongols game, I think Mongols could actually win this.
So that was going to be my hot take.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No. It's good though, because we're actually you
at least we're
basically
agreeing on it,
you hit all the points I want to talk about, which is essentially that I do think at the moment Falcons, I don't think are in a good spot. I caught them a bit in the open qual for the Esports World Cup. Didn't look great. Oh no, it wasn't Esports World Cup. It was some other qualifier. Didn't look great. I don't know, man. I just think this addition of Dupree, the big thing when you lose Boros, and it's probably the issue basically for the likes of, basically when you think of, let's think of kind of Snappy and some Pius previously, right? On Ents, right? They had nerds. It's like a big injection of firepower, the big man that they can send out, someone who can close around, someone who can lurk super effectively. If they ever needed him to as well, they could be like, right, nerds, we really need you to, you know, hair a rifle and crack open a site for us, go and do this. But, you know, they can always kind of leave him to his own devices. Boros, they couldn't. They had to micromanage him a little bit, obviously, because that's just kind of how he is as a player. And then I think just now, with the addition of Dupree, like, I think, for me, stats feel a little inflated. I'm not even really looking at kind of his 1.15 rating now, but, you know, he dipped into us tier 2. He was playing a lot of pretty ass competition. And that Parisi team had a lot of good talent on them. They're actually a very decent tier 2 team. They're definitely the upper echelon of tier 2. But I just don't think they have the raw firepower here. When you look at this team and you're like, right, who's going to be the dedicated entry who's going to crack open and get 2-3 kills? It's like,
yeah,
no one. Like maybe Magisk, but then like no. But then Dupree was kind of doing it a little bit on Preezy, but then is he going to be able to do it at a tier 1 level against riflers like Flames? You know what I mean? Like anchoring a site? No, I don't think so. I think he's going to get out aimed. So I think fundamentally this Falcons team just lack firepower. Like it's all well and good that you have the structure and the setup and the system and all this, but your average age is 29, and I'm not saying that age makes the biggest of differences, but this is an old way of thinking, which I think it is just working. Yes, the ranking is 12 in the world. It is still pretty good, but I think it's slightly inflated. For me, I really do like Mongols. I think they have two guys who can AWP at a very high level. I know Nine says the primary, but I think Techno can also AWP very well when he wants to. I think Blitz is an absolute maniac when he gets going. My only gripe with the Mongols is, bless him, because he's like loveliest, like he looks like the cutest fella ever, right? Mazzinho is so shit on LAN. I don't know what happens. He's so good online. Like Mongols just qualified for the Esports World Cup, right? Beating Rare Atom in the final 2-1. And I didn't actually catch the tail end of the game, but from what I heard, Mazzinho's playing quite well. He's very good online. But on LAN, I mean, I can't remember if it was, I don't think it was Kato. There was like one game in particular where he was like single digit kills heading in towards overtime. Like it was like not good. He's young. He's like 17, I want to say 16, 17. He's pretty young. So I'm going to give him, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Say, he's pretty new to this. That's my only real worry, that at times Mongols feel like they're playing 4v5, but I still think they actually can win. I think Blitz can sometimes just take over, and it'd be kind of funny if it happens. It'd be kind of based because I do think Falcons still need another change. I don't think. Yeah. I love Dupree, the most successful, technically major candidate, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know. For me, I think this team is what it is. But final game, Tyloo G2, one-sided. I think as much as it's funny to hate on G2, as much as it's funny to laugh at them when they lose, because they shouldn't have kicked JKS. I'm still not over it. Still the worst decision ever. But Tyloo, I don't think are going to compete. This is a side who, yes, now they don't have Advent, which I guess is nice. Oh no, wait, I'm lying. He is here. But I don't know if
he's listed.
Is he listed on this team?
No,
I'm gonna.
We've got Lyrics.
Because they have about 20 people on the roster.
Yeah,
look at the roster.
I know.
So they have Advent, Jamyang, Kaze, Mercury, ZDR, Danking, Aristo, Freeman, Mosaic, Almond, Lyrics. So my understanding was this team was going to be Jamyang, Mercury, ZDR, Lyrics, and Mosaic back in. But Advent's been playing recently. Like if you look at, actually, let's even look at the Esports World Cup. Was Advent playing in their games? That'll be a big thing for me. He was. Yeah. So my assumption, this is probably going to be their team of Jamyang, Mercury, Kaze, Advent, ZDR. If that is the case, then I'm very concerned because, they signed these guys and they're not using them, right? And like Mosaic got benched because apparently Mosaic doesn't listen to calls. That's the rumor on the rumor mill, is that Mosaic just does not back Advent at all.
I mean,
he just. I agree with him. I'm with Mosaic. Free him.
If I'm at Epic Land and I've got an Advent style IGL and I'm out here, going +5
Mosaic is
most
crisp,
games,
man.
I'm probably gonna be like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I can't lie.
Making it real hard, and then it just takes that one call, doesn't it? Quarterfinals.
Man, I know Advent has found a lot of talent and like nurtured them. He found Jamyang in like a face at Pog or their equivalent or whatever. I think
Mosaic was the same, right?
I think he was the same, right? Yeah. However, when you've got these guys who are so talented and you're not using them, sometimes, and this is probably what Mosaic did and why he got benched. He probably was just like, Advent, scoreboard fella. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, Advent, mate, you're going 3-20. I don't think it's your time to shine here. Yeah. But realistically, Advent. So yeah, he should
time out, guys. Listen.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a hero AK.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Sorry?
AK here. It's
What
like,
did you
hey,
just say?
you got 4 kills. We're 32 rounds in deep in triple OT, mate. What do you mean you're gonna get an AK out? No, I know he's done so much for this team and for these players, and I know we talk about loyalty, but fucking hell, there's got to come a point where we're like, this. He is like the 3rd lowest land rated player of all time. Like, come on, man. Like, there's got to be a point. And the people above him, I think like one of them is like, I want to say it's like Ocean, and then I can't remember who the other one is. Yeah, but it's not good. But I remember somebody showed me the leaderboard and they weren't great. Yeah. So this is a guy who, for me, he should have left the team a long time ago. He hasn't. And as much as I hate to say it, I also think Kaze should have gone too. I think I'm right in saying Lyrics was the AWPer, but also Tyloo did a tweet saying this team that had no Advent and no Kaze, they fresh look. They literally did a tweet like a month and a half ago, and then I've not used that team once. So what was the point of this tweet with the graphic and the pictures and them in the jerseys? They did all this stuff, and then I've not used this team once. So I fully don't understand. And the worst thing about it, it's similar to the CIS region, is they don't really use Twitter, so we don't really know what's going on ever. We basically like need insiders to tell us everything. And funnily enough, the best insider is Dan King. He's like the top dog streamer. He is like he's like a huge streamer now, making apparently like mega money. But he's also signed to Tyloo. So arguably he would know more than most. But yeah, I don't know, man. As you can tell, this Tyloo team really hits a nerve with me.
Yeah. I was gonna say you are pissed.
Yeah. Just because they're just shit. Like they're just so annoyingly bad.
But it's also like I think
holds Jam Young back, who's so talented.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a big tilting aspect because when he came on the scene as Rare Atom, oh man, there was an international event. It wasn't like the major circuit because that was the Mongolian players. But there was an international event
I can't even think.
A couple years ago.
This is COVID time?
When they first came on. Yeah, I think so. Let me do a little bit of digging here because I do want to find this. It's going to irk me slightly. Where are we at? They did well into... Okay, this is going to be confusing because it's Rare Atom's still going. But I've got this up on my end as well. So I'm thinking, like, one of the events that I'm thinking of that I did was Valencia. Is that just the event I'm thinking of?
Yeah, Valencia makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe they came like top 4 at Valencia, which was like a decent performance for them.
Yeah.
So, and I believe, we had a bit of info in from Blair about them. They won like the Extremum or Extremes Land.
Extremes Land. Yeah.
Of the same year. So they were doing quite well domestically. But they kind of, burst onto the scene. Few new names, I think, was the thing that we've obviously touched on a little bit. Jam Young and Mosea and whatnot. And I think they brought back Kaze or something. So, when they first came together. So I think, people were quite excited to see this team. So we know that there is a decent ceiling on them. It's just like this past year, especially, they have been tumbling. And
yeah, they're not
really
even
weird.
They're like arguably not even top 3 anymore. I mean, I think in the region, Mongols I think are undoubtedly a number 1, and then I think I would say Lin Vision are number 2.
Like super domestically, Lin Vision are definitely the best.
And then recently, the new look Rare Atom, they made it all the way to the finals of the ESL World Cup. So. Yeah, the post Fuzi, post Corey era of Rare Atom. It's like, yeah. But then Fuzi qualified for the Middle East qualifier, so my goat, still gonna be there in Riyadh. So I gotta respect it. But okay, hiccups. Yeah, this side team annoy me. I think there's actually a genuine the way they've been playing recently as well. I caught them in the ESL World Cup, wasn't great in the qualifiers, and I caught them in something else. I want to say Challenger, ESL Challenger before this as well. The way they've been playing recently, unironically, they could not even pick up a map this tournament. That's how bad they've been. Like, I could, as much as it hurts me, I can make strong arguments that Sharks are 2-0 them. So
that's going to be the fire game. Hopefully we get to cast it at that. Because
do you know what? I actually like sometimes getting in the trenches a little bit is quite funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm leaning. I'm going G2. Let's finish it off. Top 4. the same thing, and then we'll
Yep.
finish off with a little bit of fantasy. For me, number one, I'm gonna go Vitality. Number two, I want to go G2. Number three. Now, as much as I'm going, I actually no, I probably still will go Mongols number three here. And then my last chance qualifier, I think I'm going to go Falcons. I think it's going to be mine. That's where I want to go. As much as I want to say Falcons get three, I actually think if Mongols beat them, they basically just kind of guarantee that third spot. And I think Mongols
Yeah.
can beat them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go, that's how I'm going to go. I'm going to go Vitality, G2, Mongols, Falcons in that
Oh
order.
yeah, yeah. I think I'd be inclined to agree. There is something behind the Falcons team. You know, we sort of taught them to death a little bit, but I don't think that this ilk of players allow themselves to not qualify for the major and then check out of Pro League pretty quickly. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Especially after actually performing very well at Kato. So there is a little bit of potential behind them. But yeah, so I just feel like the caliber of minds that they have and whatnot will put in the discipline, will put in the hard work. And then if it doesn't, if they check out of this event as well, then it gets interesting. I think they could implode if that happens. But in terms of the order, yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I think that is kind of the way that it goes for me as well.
Yeah, the only argument I could actually like for myself is that if Falcons do win that first game, I think they probably get that third spot. But so basically flipped. So basically, like winner of that best of three essentially takes number three in the group. Let's finish things off with the age old, everyone's kind of favorite, the old fantasy, right? We'll have a little look at fantasy. I'll start with mine. I'll get mine up. Here it is.
Yeah.
This is what I am going for. I'm going for a little bit of a okay. Let me explain my reasoning behind the madness. So, like, I've in the past done quite well, basically going for two golds, right? Two, top players,
Yeah.
and then having like the cheapest people around them. I did want to kind of spread the love a little bit here, so I'm going very much on the phase hype train. I just want to go Carrigan for the leader. I think this is a team that will run deep in the tournament. I think they'll go deep, and he just guarantees points by putting him a leader. So I'm going to go him. I don't think, like, realistically, they could come into Pro League and just not walk it, but come into it and win it relatively convincingly. There might be a hiccup loss into a lower bracket somewhere, but generally speaking, FaZe have just looked so good. But Frozen's just too expensive. But he has been unbelievable. And then my big ticket player, I went for Spinks. I think Vitality would have really been kicking themselves post major. It wasn't a good, like, in the start of the year, it's just not been good enough for them, right?
Yeah.
In their books. This is a side who should be getting, they've got the caliber to make it to a final of, or at least make a top four tournaments. And the fact that they didn't, I think they'll be thinking, why not? So I think they would have spent a decent amount of time, a little kind of break away. Obviously no I am Chengdu as well. So that's a big kind of break of where hard scrimming, pracking, whatever. So I think Spinks can bring some form. Rain, the caveman, right? Everyone loves that one about him on Ancient, but this guy is just so reliable. I mean, he's relentless, isn't he? He's just never given up this form. So consistent. No way, because I'm just a big fan of this guy. I do actually really like him. If I'm gonna call them a dark horse, I've got to back myself on the dark horse. I feel like a little bit, so I'm gonna go No Way as my dark horse. And also, I think he's like criminally undervalued. He's like in the 190s, right? Which I think is like pretty cheap.
Yeah.
He is. I think he is my cheapest player, bar Carrigan. And then Yabi, because I think recently his form's really good. I did want to actually go Stown here. He's a little bit too expensive for me. Would have meant I would have to take like another IGL instead of No Way. So I went Yabi. He's actually been pretty solid on his CT sides as well. And on the T side, he's been getting a lot of mileage on his lurks. So for me, I think he could find that form, because I feel like now Device is giving him all his space back. He had a really good run at Chengdu as well. So I'm hoping post sort of Chengdu, with the positives of that coming back, a bit of break before that as well, now coming towards Pro League. I think this team for me feels okay. The only real weakness that I think this team actually like has is maybe they don't have that. I mean, Spinks is a star, but they don't have like a Zywoo or a Monesi or a I wouldn't say a Nico actually at the moment, but you know what I mean. One of those kind of like a Frozen. That's one of the big things. Or the other one is there's a real world that No Way could just come and just bot out. Then I'm in a bit of trouble. But yeah, that's my team. That's my team. Do you want to you want to talk us through yours? I already see
Yeah,
you've got
sure.
one of my favorites.
I
So,
realize
you got the
now as
boy.
well. My oh, no, it's not too bad actually. That works out quite well. My screenshot looks like an actual web page, so
Yeah, yeah,
boom.
perfect.
Seamless production. Yeah. So I'll go. You went right to left, so I'll do that as well. Just sort of talking through things. I think that QB ultimately it was a money thing. I didn't have too many options left. I caught a bit of your interview that you did with him, and again playing for Fnatic and stuff like that. So I figured it'd be nice to throw him in there. I think you and I are quietly hopeful for this guy to show himself off a little bit. The T-side attacker, again, I'm going a little percentage base with him. I've not seen
Nice.
too much tape behind it, but in terms of activation, is this the way we play fantasy? Not quite sure. It's our first outing for it,
We're not really fantasy people. We're kind of
yeah,
learning
we're
the
getting
ropes
into
here.
it. We're getting into it, I think. And
Yeah.
I think that's sort of as well where is the meta? You've got like a few silver players in there. Is it trying to squeeze 2 golds in? Is it what I've done with Frozen? Difficult to say. But yeah, so I think QB's a player that could indeed put up a few numbers, and it seems like he has some good T-sides there as well, which is maybe an angle. Body's a pretty good T-side caller, to be fair. Major, got to get him in as the IGL. Again, going to be towards the bottom end, as you usually are with the IGL, so that's sort of why he's got that role. Not too much to talk over. We did say in terms of the runs and whatnot that he might be able to go a little bit deep with Eternal Fire, obviously. So, yeah, they might be able to surprise us. They might be able to make a playoffs, which would obviously be pretty solid for the points. Stare is where I went. I think this was another sort of money type thing. Also a player that I quite like. There's a little bit of voting with the heart here as well in some of these players. He is a guy that I quite like. So, and Eng fragging wise, they've been looking good. It does feel like on Astralis, that changes up a little bit in terms of what they want to do. Some maps, I think Stair does like entering, but as you just mentioned with Yabi, he's a bit more consistent as like a break open a bomb site type guy. Does that mean that he's quite going in first? Not necessarily, but Stair's maybe a bit more committed to that. Then we got Mezzi, right? I wanted to get Vitality in there somewhere. Obviously, it's a team that should do well. Mezzi fit in quite nicely. We love a bit of the merry man, and indeed, CT side role player, really, really solid in that case. But I think what I ultimately went for, they were right at the top as well, to be fair. They're obviously the first team sort of playing and whatnot, but they were right at the top of the fantasy page. It is Frozen. I think he's playing so well right now. Really, really versatile. Filling a lot of gaps. His energy, you can hear it in like the comms and stuff that Carrigan is posting. He's really, really in there. Rops is maybe struggling a little bit since the addition of Frozen, but the Frozen stock is going up. And he's proving maybe why, he's got to be a bit greedier, why Carrigan should give him a bit more to do. And then obviously I've given him, that big boost of like the stat hunter and everything in terms of the role. But I think in agreement with you, you've maybe doubled down a bit more on phase. I'm going more on the individual, but I think that we're in pretty heavy agreement that they should be able to make it deep, and therefore, we'll get a lot of the points out of the phase players.
Arguably favourites as well for the tournament, I would say, in my opinion.
I'd say so.
Post Chengdu. I mean, what, they're on a run now? Is it 8? Is it 8 finals in a row? Is that what it is?
I think it's 8.
Was it 8 in total?
7 in a row. It's like 8 in CS2.
Yeah.
And then 7 in a row. I think.
Which one did they miss?
I know that is
they
the
missed
big
one,
question,
right? But I can't remember which one it was. This is, I should know this.
It might be like early on for sure. Let's have a dig.
One Sydney, obviously first big one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like this is the thing for me. I mean, it feels very, very easy to go quite heavy on phase at the moment. They're just ever reliable, and I think that's the big thing. I mean, we haven't even touched on Group C and D, which obviously we'll do next week, but the big thing is that this is a team for me who I've just, I think you can always, basically always back. And it was, by the way, I am Dallas. No, that was before that. No, it is. Yeah, grand finals in all of them. Yeah, so that's 1, 2.
I mean, are people
3,
when I've definitely seen them talk
4,
about it? Are people maybe talking about like the spring groups? Were they? Obviously, there's not like a
but
No,
they
it's
made
still
it through. I guess that's really all that
2-0
matters.
Liquid. So yeah, I don't really know.
I
what the
think
angle
it's
is.
now 8 finals in a
I
row.
guess it's 8 in a row.
That's
Yeah.
basically yeah. I mean, I don't know if people were trying to say like, oh, the spring groups like RMR or something like that, but
Yeah.
but they made it through and it's not a final. So yeah, eight in a row. I mean, like we said, you can't not back these guys, and I think that's kind of the mindset we're going with at the moment. They're a pretty in form side, but I think that'll basically conclude things here. We'll be back with another one of these next Sunday for Group C and D, and obviously for those of you watching, go watch Pro League. Go check into the B stream. We're gonna be on every day, but what times we're on, we don't even know yet.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out. Check out the Twitters.
I'm
You
sure
know how it is.
it'll swap about a little bit as well.
Exactly.
The other, again, it's all out there, so it's not anything huge. But the other duo is Lucy and B Dog. And
Not
I'm
for
sure
week one
they'll.
though. It's Trav.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Lucy.
That's true. Yeah, we got to give the shout out to
she's doing
Trav, yeah.
challenge Melbourne.
Yes.
And it overlaps. Yeah. So we got
Yeah.
the main man, Trav.
Indeed, the boy.
goat.
Let's see.
The goat.
I'm excited for him, man. It's gonna be good fun to get Trav.
The thing is though, this is Trav's second Pro League.
It's
He's in
true.
a Pro League already.
It's true. Yeah.
We did one best of 3.
We did
He
it. Me and him.
Oh,
did
you did
together.
it? Yes, of course. Yeah. It was a Tuesday. We were laughing about it the other day. It was like a 2-0 really quick game, like 13-5.
Yeah.
16-5, 16-4 or
It
something.
was Movistar.
Set of Fire?
I think it would have just been Movistar at the time, not Koi.
Yeah,
it was
Movistar Set of Fire.
Turn on Fire.
Yeah.
That does sound about right.
Just the one best of 3, but it still counts on Wikipedia, mate. So that's all that matters.
It's true.
Still got
The
that little flex there. That's that matters. Yeah, I think that'll basically conclude things. Ladies and gents, thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, we'll be back next Sunday. Thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure. Go check out Pro League. You know how it is. We'll be on the B streams. Make sure to keep tabs on the Twitter because we don't actually know yet what games we're on, but we'll find out the day before, probably. Something along those lines. Nice and how we like it, basically. But either way, for now, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. All the good stuff. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Take care.